9:39. Let's talk to Fiona McAnina. That's another gaffe for next week. It is McAnina, isn't it, from Sex Matters? Because we want to talk to her about gender questioning children and pronoun badges. GPs have been told that they have to make them wear them. What's going on? Fiona, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
So, every time we think that we've sort of seen the light and we've passed through the clouds of confusion and, you know, senses returned to everybody, you get a story like this where it turns out that it hasn't quite left the NHS.
Yeah, the problem here is that the Royal College of GPs invited a bunch of activists to their conference, and they gave a platform to a trans activist who told GPs all this stuff they should do in order to encourage children to think about being trans. And that's absolutely the last thing that doctors should be doing.
Yes.
So just when we've reached the point where, you know, we've got the CAS review, 4 years of work led by an eminent paediatrician, creating a much better framework to help children who might be getting confused, who might be worried about whether they're good enough to be a boy or a girl, whether they're right. Just when we've got a review that puts some good principles in place, we've got the Royal College of GPs putting an activist on the stage, basically undermining the recommendations of the CAS review. And that is not good healthcare for children.
Yeah, I mean, it is extraordinary, isn't it, that there are still so many pockets of the NHS, corners of it as well, where this stuff persists, you know, because an awful lot of it emanates from there as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think the worst thing that these GPs were told was that they should think about changing the gender marker on children's healthcare records. So, you know, if you have a little boy or a little girl, their healthcare needs are not exactly the same. They've got different body parts, for one thing. And the idea that a doctor should just fiddle with their records and change them is really irresponsible, and CAS pointed that out. You cannot track the health of children as they grow, mature through the system if you change their sex marker. So the Royal College of GPs need to stop being activists and start being proper doctors and follow the CAS review.
Well, I think that goes for an awful lot of people who are in all sorts of civil service jobs, because we know, for example, that, you know, many civil service departments are similarly infected with all this stuff, aren't they?
Yeah, we've seen some crazy stuff there too. And of course, majority of people, I think, don't go along with it or don't want to go along with it. But it's the activists who seem to have the voice and the confidence. You know, one of the issues we have is that people in the workplace are cowed into thinking that they dare not question, you know, the mighty LGBT staff network or the LGBT leader or whatever it is. So it's very hard to bring common sense back into the workplace.
Right. And because for a lot of companies, certainly, and certainly for the civil service and a lot of public sector organisations, you know, it's easier for them to make some kind of ruling and to give some kind of guidance to everybody and to say these are not words you should use and these are badges you should wear and these are pronouns you can't even mention, because it's easier than having to be bothered every single day by the activists knocking on your door trying to get you to do it.
Well, it's a kind of cheap form of diversity and inclusion initiative. Yeah. The challenge around how do you make the workplace accessible for disabled people, for example, that's a lot more difficult. Yeah. But pronouns and badges and flags are very cheap and very easy. So, yeah, you're right.
Well, I mean, even David Lammy was doing it, I think, when the first or sort of month or so, inside the first month of being in charge of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, he was hanging up a bisexual flag to celebrate Bisexual Week or something like that. And you're kind of going, it's the Foreign Office, why don't you just fly the British flag? You know, what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to wonder why this particular group of people needs to get so much attention all the time, because really, whether there's a flag outside proclaiming your sexual orientation or not makes no difference to how you live your life. But unfortunately, coming back to children, that is where it does make a difference, because they are suggestible and they do trust the adults around them. And if you go into your doctor's surgery and it's festooned with pride things telling you that it's really great to be trans, then, you know, that does start to unsettle children, make them wonder if people do change sex. I mean, we've heard stories of children coming home from school saying they're afraid to go to sleep in case they wake up and overnight they've changed sex.
Wow.
So, you know, the idea that you can change sex is not a healthy one to promote to children, and GPs are the last people who should be doing it.
And is there any evidence that it's getting any worse in schools? You know, because I think there was a period where it felt like in an awful lot of certainly girls' schools, and quite a lot of girls' private schools, funnily enough, that there was something like 30 to 40% of girls in those schools of a certain age, sort of secondary school age, who were considering either being gender neutral or trans.
Well, you know, history has shown that teenage girls, for whatever reason, are more susceptible to social contagion. So it's not surprising that that's the case. And what we're waiting for is for the government to issue their guidance to schools for gender questioning children. Right. You know, it's already a step forward that guidance is called gender questioning children, because there are no transgender children. We shouldn't be talking about that. No one's born in the wrong body. But we do need that guidance to come forward, to give teachers and head teachers the confidence to safeguard all the children in the school. And that means not pretending that children can change sex, not letting children go in the wrong sex changing rooms, not making those poor children promises that cannot be kept. Because you can't promise a child that we're all going to, you know, pretend they're the opposite sex. That just doesn't work.
No, exactly right. In the same way that you wouldn't tell them you can do absolutely any job that you want. You know, the idea of school is you're supposed to sort of educate them and point them or gently direct them into an area where they might benefit, and then they might find work from that. But listen, good to talk to you, Fiona McAnina. Thank you very much indeed, Director of Sex Matters.